Okay, so let's talk about business success. What if I told you that the single most important metric, the one thing we all chase, isn't profit? What if it's something way more, well, human? We're about to dive into a truly revolutionary idea that flips everything we think we know on its head. I mean, think about it. For what, a century now? The answer to how's business has always been about the bottom line, right? The numbers. But what if that whole way of thinking is just wrong? What if we've been running the race but looking at the wrong finish line this entire time? What if it's about the happiness of your employees? Yeah, you heard that right. What if the one true goal, the thing that actually predicts and drives every other kind of success, was the genuine, real happiness of your people? It sounds kind of radical, I know, but it's an idea that changes absolutely everything. And look, this isn't just some feel-good, fluffy idea. Nope, this is a solid, academic, and super practical framework, and it was all developed by one truly unique thinker. All right, so let's get to it. Let's meet the visionary mind behind this massive paradigm shift, Professor Vikas Rai Bhatnagar. Now, to really get his work, you first have to understand where this guy is coming from. And his background is, wow, he's not just some academic in an ivory tower. This is a former Army captain, a guy who's been a chief human resource officer, in the trenches at major corporations. And on top of all that, he's a world-renowned scholar. It's that powerful mix of real-world leadership and deep research that gives his ideas so much credibility. And that brings us to his first huge breakthrough, a completely new way of looking at what a company even is. For decades, we've used these really limiting, sometimes even kind of depressing metaphors for business, right? We talk about companies like they're just cold machines, or these cutthroat political jungles. But in this super prestigious book, Exploring Morgan's Metaphors, Professor Bhatnagar comes along and proposes something totally different, a really powerful alternative. What if an organization's main job was to be an enabler of happiness? Okay, so if you're going to enable happiness, you've got to understand what makes a human being tick. And he argues that the old idea of the economic man, that we're all just self-interested cogs in a machine, is totally outdated. So he introduces this concept of the systemic economic man, or SISM for short. The idea here is to see every single employee as a whole person, a dynamic system of interconnected parts, spiritual, social, cognitive, physical, all of it. And all those parts need to be supported and nourished. And this is so key. You just can't build a happy, thriving organization on a broken model of what a person is. It just doesn't work. But when we start thinking in terms of the system, we can finally start designing workplaces that actually care for the whole person, not just the part that punches a clock. So this new metaphor and this much more holistic view of people, well, that became the foundation for a full-blown theory. And it's a theory that tackles one of the biggest, oldest debates in the history of business. You've probably heard this before. For years, business schools, boardrooms, you name it, they've been locked in this battle between two big ideas. On one side, you have shareholder primacy. The only goal is to make as much money as possible for the owners. On the other side, you've got stakeholder theory, where you try to balance the needs of everybody, customers, employees, the community. The problem is, both approaches just seem to create more conflict and confusion. So fast forward to 2022. Professor Bhatnagar presents his solution at the Academy of Management Conference, and believe me, that's a very big deal in the academic world. He called it the theory of profitable humanization, and it offers this just incredibly elegant way out of that old argument. His core argument is so powerful because it's so focused. He basically says, look, instead of trying to juggle a dozen competing priorities, what if you just focused on one? He proposes that employee happiness should be the single ultimate yardstick for how well a company is doing. Now let's be really clear about this. This theory is not anti-profit, not at all. In fact, it's the opposite. It reframes profit not as the goal, but as the natural result of having a genuinely happy, engaged, and humanized team. His research actually shows that creating wealth is a super important part of people's well-being. The two aren't in conflict, they're totally connected.
And this theory introduces a powerful new word, a new concept that really changes the game and gives a name to this new central figure in the organization.
Get ready for it, the employee holder. It's a term just as powerful as shareholder or stakeholder, but it puts the employee exactly where they should be, right at the absolute center of the universe for that company. The whole reason the organization exists, the way it's designed, everything should revolve around them.
And this is so much more than just a clever new word. For centuries, employees have been called human resources, basically a means to an end, a way to make money. The idea of the employee holder finally makes good on what the philosopher Immanuel Kant said we should do: treat people as an end in themselves, not just a tool. It's a really profound shift in thinking.
Okay, so this all sounds great in theory, right? But how do we know it actually works? Well, this vision isn't just stuck in a book. It has been forged in the real world, and it's already making a global impact.
This is where the rubber meets the road. Professor Bhatnagar actually put his theory into practice. At a company called Shree Cement, he designed and rolled out a revolutionary happiness management system. And this wasn't some small thing. This work was so groundbreaking that it got published as a case study in a Harvard publishing textbook by Stephen Robbins, who is, by the way, one of the world's best-selling authors on this stuff. That's a huge stamp of approval.
And when you look at his journey, it all makes sense. This is exactly why he's the one to create this new paradigm. Think about it. From the discipline and leadership of the Army, to the tough reality of corporate boardrooms, to the intense rigor of academia, he has this unique 360-degree view that almost nobody else has.
And ultimately, that's what makes this so powerful. This isn't some abstract utopian dream. It is a practical, tested, and totally achievable vision for a better way to work. And it's built by someone who has truly seen it from every single angle.
Which really just leaves us with one final and I think really critical question to ask ourselves. If you look at your own workplace through this new lens, is it built like a machine designed just to extract value, or is it actually designed to be an enabler of happiness? Because the answer to that question might just decide its future.